So let's turn our attention to New South Wales. It's had a surge in second doses of the COVID vaccine in the past week, while the ACT has now gone past 90% first dose rates. For more, I'm joined by my colleague Tom Connell. Tom, the national rate of vaccination pretty steady for a few weeks now.
And pretty good. Maybe Australia's going to be Hope Island soon because vaccination rates are our big hope from here. Australian averages have been bumping along about 3.5% a week on both doses, and a bit fewer than 3 million doses in total. So 77.8 and 54.2 are the first and second doses. Again, they're really being driven, though, by the lockdown jurisdictions. So when we look at how New South Wales, ACT and Victoria are faring right now, we're seeing the story of where a lot of this growth comes from, of course, because of the size of New South Wales and Victoria in particular. On first doses, interesting to note here, we're getting a big surge from the ACT, 90.1%. So the first jurisdiction to go beyond 90%, 6.2% in just a week. A little note of caution, there are a couple of age brackets where more than 100% of the population has been vaccinated. In other words, a few more people coming from our region and inflating the number. So it's a small caveat, but still impressive. New South Wales, 87.2, 3.1. So the increase is slowing. We expect that. We're getting towards 90. It's not a concern. And Victoria bumping through 80. The other encouraging part, it's up by 4.7%. In other words, there's plenty more to go. When we look as well at second doses, this is the real freedom, of course, for a lot of these areas when proper lockdowns end. ACT increasing by 5%. New South Wales has just gone ahead of ACT for the first time in quite a while. And look at that increase, 7.4%. So those big surges on first dose are now flowing through for second appointments. Victoria just shy of 50%. So not increasing by as much, but we have had that announcement today, of course, where they're going to make the Pfizer appointments closer together. Finally, on this element, the timelines we're talking about when they will get proper freedoms, the 80% double dose timeline, October 22 for the ACT, a week earlier for New South Wales, November 9 at the moment for Victoria. Karen.
What about the states that have been lagging, among them Queensland, where we were just talking to Gleeso, and they've got a couple of cases emerging. Where are those states that have been lagging? Are they picking up the pace?
Not really. I mean, look, at least they're steady. They're not dropping further behind. But when we look at Queensland, and we've had this up a lot, 3.6% is the increase here, 65.7. This is the first dose, by the way. It's the best indicator of where we'll get to. The concern will be how much these jurisdictions go. Will they even get past 80%? Nothing's guaranteed here. WA 64.8, 3% is a lower increase. They had a public holiday this week. So this has been pretty consistent, trending along at about 3.5%. We're going to keep a close eye on this. We're hoping for a surge up, particularly in Queensland facing a possible lockdown. What we don't want to see is any sort of drop down. That means you're getting towards the hesitant population. 3.6, again, is about where they've been at, so it's not dropping. But the Northern Territory, what's happening here? 2.1% on first dose, and that's become a bit of a trend over the past 10 days plus. They're not getting a very good rate. So are they going to hit hesitant numbers before anywhere else? When we look at timelines as well, I'm looking at here some 90% timelines. Fraught to estimate this because none of these jurisdictions are even close to 90% on a first dose. But let's look at second dose anyway and assume everything goes swimmingly. November 22, December 18, December 24. The relevance here, all these jurisdictions have indicated 80% wouldn't satisfy them. Tasmania specifically put 90% on it in the past couple of days. So they're the dates. You actually expect them to blow out. And in fact, Queensland, if I were a betting man, Kieran, I'd say they wouldn't get to 90%. So that's the fraud element around this sort of prediction. We're just doing a 7-day rolling average for simplicity there.
No, it's very interesting numbers to look at, particularly when you've got the federal government saying they want borders reopened in time for Christmas. Tell you what, it's not going to happen on those timelines and trajectories. Now, the news feels pretty bleak when you look at the numbers out of Victoria, but there is at least one good trend that Melbourne viewers can look to, Tom.
There is. It's about vaccinations, and it's comparing Melbourne, Victoria overall, to New South Wales. What I'm comparing is first dose rate here, New South Wales 2 weeks ago, from 2 weeks from today, and Victoria now, 81.2 versus 80.1. There's 1.1% difference. Very similar. That's a day or two of getting first doses. Second dose as well. So it's not just first dose. Look at the similarity as well on second dose. Again, this is New South Wales 2 weeks ago, 50.6, Victoria 49.8%. Where am I going with this? Well, we've seen New South Wales cases begin to come down a little bit more than 2 weeks ago. So if we look at the New South Wales curve, September 17, Here's the day we're talking about when New South Wales was there, 1,284 cases. Now, yes, there's a plateau before then, and then the case numbers come down. I'm not being overly simplistic here and saying, here we go, Victoria, you're going to come down. We know as well, Kieran, they've just had a big blip up. We assume it's grand final related, people gathering, sick of following rules and so on. But the point is, the vaccine rate New South Wales has got to 2 weeks ago. It's clearly a driving factor in bringing down the daily case numbers. There are other factors too. I'm not trying to be too simplistic here, but clearly a good factor is this vaccine level.